Commander Lazak of the Galactic Hegemony stood on the bridge of the warship Inevitable Conquest, his four arms crossed behind his back as he gazed at the blue-green planet rotating slowly on the main view screen. His scaled skin shimmered under the blue lights of the command center, and his vertical pupils narrowed as he studied what the locals called Earth. "So this is the famous prison planet," he said, his voice carrying the distinctive clicking undertone of the Valkyrie species. "Doesn't look like much." First Officer Drelak approached, datapad in hand. "According to our intelligence, Commander, the ancients used this system as a dumping ground for their most violent criminals before they ascended. The inhabitants are descendants of those prisoners." Lazak snorted. "And now we are supposed to be frightened of them? These humans." He pronounced the word like it was stuck between his pointed teeth. "The reports from our forward scouts are concerning." Trolloc continued, swiping through screens of information. "The reconnaissance vessels have gone missing in the last solar cycle. Incompetence," Lazak dismissed with a wave of his lower right hand, "or equipment failure. These humans have barely managed to reach their own moon. They are still burning fossil fuels, for void's sake." He laughed, a sound like gravel in a metal can. "How dangerous can they be?" "Dangerous enough that High Command has authorized a full battle group for this mission." Drelak reminded him. "The first direct contact protocol has been superseded. We are to assess and contain any potential threat before the colonization fleet arrives." Lazak turned from the view screen with a flourish of his ceremonial cape. "Then let's get on with it. Prepare a scout team. I want boots on the ground before their next rotation." And Drelak, "Yes, Commander. Make sure they are armed this time. Just because these primitives aren't a threat doesn't mean we should be careless." Drelak thumped his chest in salute. "As you command." Science Officer Talari adjusted the settings on her atmospheric suit one final time as the dropship entered Earth's upper atmosphere. The cabin shuddered around her, and she glanced nervously at the 5 soldiers accompanying her team. "First time planetside, Science Officer?" asked Sergeant Morax, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "Is it that obvious?" Talari replied, her skin flushing a deeper shade of blue. "Your third eye keeps blinking," Morax said, pointing to the center of her forehead. "Dead giveaway. Don't worry, this is a simple recon mission. We will be in and out before the locals even know we are here." Captain Rennick, the mission leader, activated the holographic display in the center of the cabin. A 3-dimensional map of their landing zone appeared, a remote area designated as Wyoming by the locals. "Listen up," Rennick said sharply. "Our mission is to collect biological samples, assess the technological capabilities of the humans, and determine their threat level. We stay together, we stay cloaked, and we avoid contact." "Any question?" Private Zhu raised a tentacle. "Sir, what if we encounter hostiles?" "Standard containment protocols," Rennick replied flatly. "Non-lethal measures only. The hegemony wants subjects for study, not corpses." "Unless absolutely necessary," added Morax with a grin that revealed too many teeth. Talari felt a flutter of unease in her secondary stomach. Something about this mission felt wrong. The data they'd collected from orbit contradicted many of their preconceptions about this world. The humans were primitive by hegemony standards, yes, but their advancement curve was unusually steep in some areas, stagnant in others. Almost as if the dropship lurched, cutting off her train of thought. "Atmospheric disturbance," announced the pilot's voice over the comm. "Unexpected weather pattern." "Hang on, this might get bumpy." "Perfect," muttered Talari. "Just perfect." The ship plunged through thick cloud cover, tossed by winds that hadn't appeared on their scans. The soldiers gripped their restraints, stone-faced, while Talari focused on not emptying her stomachs. After what seemed like an eternity, the turbulence subsided. "Approaching landing zone," the pilot reported. "Cloaking field stable, no sign of detection." Captain Rennick stood. "Gear up, we move out in 5 minutes." As the team prepared their equipment, Talari caught her first glimpse of Earth through the viewports. Rolling grasslands stretched to distant mountains, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. It was beautiful, quite unlike the bleak prison world she had imagined. "Disappointed, Science Officer?" Morax asked, noticing her expression. "Were you expecting barren wastelands and suffering prisoners?" Talari composed herself. "I'm not disappointed, Sergeant. I'm concerned. This doesn't match our intelligence at all." "Intelligence?" Morax scoffed. from probes and transmissions hundreds of cycles old. The real intelligence is what we gather with our own eyes. He patted his pulse rifle, and what we take by force if necessary. The dropship settled gently on the ground, its landing struts adjusting to the uneven terrain. The rear hatch opened with a pneumatic hiss, and cool, fresh air rushed into the cabin. Atmosphere composition within expected parameters, Talari confirmed, checking her instruments. Breathable, but I recommend we maintain suit integrity for now. Agreed, said Rennick. Move out standard formation. Zol, you are on point. The team descended the ramp, weapons ready. Talari followed, her scientific instruments humming as they analyzed everything from soil composition to background radiation. The wind whispered through tall grasses, carrying scents her filters couldn't quite categorize. In the distance, large quadrupedal herbivores, bison, according to their database, grazed peacefully. Doesn't look much like a prison to me, Private Jackson commented. That's because you are an idiot, Morax replied cheerfully. The best prisons don't have bars. The whole planet is the cell. Talari tuned out their banter, focusing on her readings. Something was registering on her scanner's unusual energy signatures, faint but persistent. She adjusted the settings, trying to isolate the source. Captain, she called, I'm picking up something unusual. Approximately 3 kilometers east. Rennick consulted his tactical display. That's not on our planned survey route. It shouldn't be there at all, based on our orbital scans. Talari explained. It's some kind of energy signature. Artificial. Definitely not natural to this environment. Rennick considered for a moment. Could be worth investigating, might save us time if it's a human settlement or outpost. He changed direction. Team, we are adjusting course. Stay alert. They moved eastward, crossing the open grassland before entering a sparse forest. The trees were unlike anything on Talari's homeworld, tall, with rough bark and leaves that rustled in the breeze. She collected samples as they walked, her excitement growing despite her apprehension. Energy signature is getting stronger, she reported after an hour of hiking. We should be able to see the source soon. They crested a small hill, and there in the valley below was nothing. Just more trees and a small, clear stream. Are your instruments malfunctioning? Rennick demanded. Talari double-checked her readings. No, Captain. The signature is definitely coming from this location. She pointed to a spot near the stream, right there in fact. Morax raised his weapon, could be underground or cloaked. Scan for artificial structures, Rennick ordered. Talari adjusted her equipment, running a deep ground scan. The results made her third eye widen. There's something there. Metal. Large. Approximately 20 meters below the surface. A bunker, suggested Jackson. Or a trap, Morax countered. Captain Rennick made a quick decision. We need to know what we are dealing with. Talari, can you determine if there are any access points? Before she could answer, a crackling sound filled the air. The team froze as a section of ground near the stream began to move, dirt and vegetation sliding aside to reveal a metal hatch. It opened slowly, hydraulics whining. Take cover, Rennick ordered. The team scattered, ducking behind trees and rocks, weapons trained on the opening. From the hatch emerged a human, just one, male by their intelligence. Tall for their species, with dark skin and close-cropped hair. He wore simple clothing, nothing that resembled armor or a uniform. He carried no visible weapons. The human looked around, seemingly oblivious to the cloaked aliens surrounding him. He stretched, yawned, then pulled out a small object that Talari recognized as a primitive communication device. He spoke into it. Base. This is Jackson. Daily perimeter check complete. All sensors operational. No unusual activity to report. He paused, listening. Roger that. I'm heading into town for supplies. Should be back by 1800. Jackson out. He pocketed the device and began walking toward the forest edge, passing within meters of Morax's position. The sergeant's grip tightened on his weapon, but Rennick signaled him to hold. Once the human was out of sight, Rennick gathered the team. This changes things. That's clearly a military installation, despite its camouflage. We need to know what's inside. The entrance is still open, Talari pointed out. The hatch had indeed remained open, a dark square in the ground. It could be automated, Private Zoll suggested. Set to close after a certain time. Or they are expecting someone else, Morax added grimly. Rennick considered their options. We don't have time to wait and see. This is too valuable an opportunity. Morax, you and I will investigate the installation. The rest of you maintain perimeter security. If we are not back in 30 minutes, return to the ship and report to Commander Lazak. Captain, Talari interjected, protocol states that I should accompany any team investigating unknown technology. Rennick stared at her for a moment, then nodded. Fine, but you stay behind us, and you follow orders without question. Understood. Understood, Captain. The three of them approached the hatch cautiously, still maintaining their cloaking fields. A metal ladder descended into darkness. Rennick went first, followed by Talari, with Morax bringing up the rear. The air grew cooler as they descended, with a sterile quality that reminded Talari of research facilities on her homeworld. At the bottom of the ladder was a narrow corridor lit by strips of light along the ceiling. The walls were plain metal, unmarked except for occasional symbols that Talari recognized as human numerals and letters. They moved silently down the corridor, which ended at a heavy door with a keypad. Can you bypass it? Rennick whispered to Talari. She examined the keypad. Primitive electronic lock. Give me a moment. She attached a small device to the keypad, which quickly cycled through possible combinations. After a few seconds, the door clicked and slid open. Beyond lay a large room filled with equipment that Talari immediately recognized as far more advanced than anything they'd expected to find on Earth. Computer terminals lined the walls, displaying data in human languages. In the center of the room was a large circular platform that hummed with energy, the source of the signature she'd detected. This doesn't make sense, she whispered. This technology it's not consistent with their development level. Some of this is almost comparable to hegemony tech. Could they have reverse-engineered it from something else? Rennick suggested, examining a console. Perhaps, Talari admitted, but that would mean that we are not the first visitors, Morax finished grimly. Check the database. See if you can find out what this place is. Talari approached a terminal, hesitating before touching the unfamiliar interface. To her surprise, the system responded easily to her inputs. Too easily. The screen flickered, then displayed text in the hegemony's standard language. Captain, she said, her voice tight with alarm. This interface just reconfigured itself to our language. It knew we were here. Rennick spun around. What? How is that possible through our cloaking fields? I don't know, but Talari stopped as new text appeared on the screen. Welcome, visitors. We have been expecting you. The door they'd entered through slammed shut. Red lights began flashing as an alarm blared. It's a trap, Morax shouted, raising his weapon. More text appeared on the screen. Not a trap, an invitation. Please remain calm, representatives will join you shortly. We need to get out of here, Rennick ordered, moving to the door and attempting to force it open. It didn't budge. Talari's mind raced. How had they been detected? The cloaking technology should have hidden them from any primitive sensors. Unless, Captain, she said slowly, I don't think this facility belongs to the humans. At least, not entirely. Before Rennick could respond, a portion of the wall slid open, revealing another corridor. Standing in the doorway was the human they had seen earlier, Jackson, along with three others. They wore no special gear, carried no visible weapons, yet their posture conveyed absolute confidence. Welcome to Earth, Jackson said, speaking perfect hegemony standard. We have been waiting for your kind to return for quite some time. The aliens froze, their cloaking fields still active. Jackson smiled. Oh, you can drop the Invisibility Act. It doesn't work here. Hasn't worked on Earth for, about 200 years now. Not since we reversed engineered it from the last scout ship that crashed. Reluctantly, Rennick deactivated his cloaking field, signaling the others to do the same. How do you know our language? The same way I know you are Captain Rennick of the Velixari Expeditionary Force, serving under Commander Lazak on the warship Inevitable Conquest. Jackson's smile never wavered. We have been listening to your communications since you entered the solar system. Your encryption is quaint, Morax growled, his hand tightening on his weapon. You dare. I wouldn't, said one of the other humans, a woman with pale skin and red hair. This room is equipped with countermeasures that would turn that lovely pulse rifle of yours into a very expensive paperweight. And then melt your arms off. What do you want? Rennick demanded. Just a conversation, Jackson replied. My name is Dr. Marcus Jackson, Earth Defense Initiative. These are my colleagues Dr. Olivia Porter, Dr. Thomas Vasquez, and Commander Diana Lee of the United Earth Military. Earth Defense Initiative, Talari repeated. You have been preparing for us specifically. Dr. Porter laughed. Not you specifically. But we have known about the hegemony for generations. The ancients left quite detailed records when they abandoned this sector. Talari felt like the floor had dropped from beneath her feet. You know about the ancients. We are the ancients, Commander Lee said flatly. Or rather their descendants. Not the criminals your histories tell about. Political prisoners, scientists, philosophers. People who questioned the regime. Lies, Marek spat. The ancients ascended to a higher plane of existence, millions of cycles ago. Some did, Dr. Vasquez acknowledged. Others chose a different path. They seeded planets like Earth, hiding their most precious resource from the power-hungry factions that would become your hegemony. And what resource was that? Rennick asked, his voice tight with suspicion. Jackson looked him directly in the eyes. Freedom, Captain. The freedom to evolve without the constraints of your rigid society. The freedom to question, to innovate, to become something new. This is absurd, Morax interrupted. Commander Lazak will not tolerate this deception. When our team fails to report, he will glass this entire region from orbit. No, Commander Lee said calmly, he won't, because right now your inevitable conquest is surrounded by 24 Earth battlecruisers, all of which decloaked approximately 3 minutes ago. Your ship is, shall we say, enjoying our hospitality, whether they realize it or not. Talari felt a chill run down her spine. That's impossible. Our sensors would have detected. Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to. Dr. Porter interrupted. A primitive world of squabbling nations, barely unified, with technology centuries behind your own. It's a mask we have worn for a very long time, waiting for the hegemony to finally find us. Why? Rennick demanded. If what you say is true, if you have this advanced technology, why hide it? Why pretend to be primitive? Jackson exchanged glances with his colleagues. Because, Captain, we learned long ago that the most dangerous predators are the ones that don't look dangerous until it's too late. Earth isn't a prison planet, it's a fortress. A sanctuary. And now it's going to be a reckoning. A reckoning, Morak scoffed. Against the might of the entire hegemony? No, Commander Lee replied softly. Against the lie that is the hegemony. The truth about the ancients. About what really happened millions of years ago. About what your leaders have been hiding from your people. We have been monitoring your civilization for centuries. Dr. Vasquez added, watching the hegemony expand, conquer, assimilate, waiting for the right moment. And now you are here, Jackson concluded, the first official contact party, the thin edge of the wedge before the colonization fleet arrives. Just as we predicted, Rennick's posture had changed subtly, from aggressive to calculating. What do you intend to do with us? That depends on you, Jackson replied. We are not the bloodthirsty criminals of your myths. We are offering you a choice. Learn the truth, help us spread it to your people and be part of what comes after, or don't. And if we refuse? Mrax demanded. Commander Lee's expression hardened. Then you will be the first casualties in a war your leaders started millions of years ago. A war they thought was over. A war they are about to lose. Talari stepped forward. You said you have proof about the ancients. About our history? More than proof, Dr. Porter replied. We have living ancients, the ones who chose to stay behind to guide us, to prepare us for this day. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If these humans were telling the truth, everything the hegemony was built on their divine mandate to rule, their technological superiority, their very identity was a lie. Take us to them, Rennick said finally. Show us this proof. Jackson nodded. Follow me. But understand this, the moment you stepped into this facility, you entered our world, the real Earth, not the facade we have maintained for your observers. What you see next will change everything you thought you knew. As they followed the humans deeper into the facility, Talari couldn't shake the feeling that they had indeed walked into an execution ground. Not for the humans, as the hegemony had intended, but for the lies that had shaped her civilization for millions of years. The true revelation, she suspected, was yet to come. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, Commander Lazak was beginning to realize that something had gone terribly wrong. "What do you mean you have lost contact with the landing party?" he barked at the communications officer. "They have only been planetside for 6 hours." "Sir, they missed 2 scheduled check-ins," the nervous officer replied. "We have attempted to reach them on all frequencies. There's no response. And the dropship transponder is active but stationary. Life signs are unclear due to atmospheric interference." Lazak pounded a fist on his command chair. Interference? Or jamming? Before the officer could respond, the tactical station erupted with alarms. The main view screen flickered, showing space around them suddenly filled with ships, dozens of them appearing out of nowhere, surrounding the inevitable conquest in a perfect sphere formation. "Impossible," Drelak whispered, staring at the display. "Our sensors didn't detect. They couldn't have battle stations." Lazak roared, "Shields up, weapons systems online." The bridge crew scrambled to comply, but the weapon control officer turned with a look of panic. "Sir, weapons are not responding. Systems show online, but targeting computers are locked. Engineering reports shield generators are non-functional," another crew member called out. "Something is overriding our systems." The view screen changed again, now showing the face of a human female with dark skin and silver-streaked hair. And she wore a simple uniform, with insignia Lazak didn't recognize. "Commander Lazak of the Hegemony warship Inevitable Conquest," she said, her voice calm and authoritative. "This is Admiral Teresa Ochoa of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Your vessel is currently surrounded and your systems have been temporarily neutralized. This is not an act of aggression but a precautionary measure. We wish to speak." Lazak snarled, his crest flaring with anger and disbelief. "How dare you release control of my ship immediately or face the consequences when the Hegemony battle fleet arrives?" Admiral Ochoa's expression didn't change. "Commander, I understand your position, but please consider the facts. We disabled your advanced warship without firing a shot. We appeared from nowhere despite your supposedly superior sensors. These are not the actions of the primitive society you expected to find." A cold feeling settled in Lazak's stomach. "What have you done with my landing party?" "They are safe, Commander. In fact, they are learning some very interesting history at the moment. History that concerns you, your crew, and every citizen of the Hegemony." Drelak stepped forward. "What kind of history?" "The true history of those you call the ancients, the true purpose of Earth, and the true reason why your leaders have kept you in the dark about both." Admiral Ochoa leaned forward slightly. "Commander Lazak, I'm extending an invitation. You and your senior officers may join your landing party on the surface. See the truth with your own eyes." "And if I refuse?" Lazak demanded. "Then you will remain here in orbit while your landing party makes their own decisions. Either way, the Hegemony fleet that follows you will receive our message and our proof." Lazak glanced at Drelak, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in his first officer's eyes. Every instinct told him this was a trap. Yet, if these humans had wanted to destroy them, they clearly could have already done so. "Very well," he said finally, "I will come to the surface. With my senior staff. But my ship remains operational and under the command of my executive officer." Admiral Ochoa nodded. "Acceptable. A transport will dock with your vessel in 30 minutes. Please be ready." The screen went dark. "Commander," Drelak said quietly, "this could be an elaborate deception. Some kind of psychological warfare." "Of course it is," Lazak replied. "But I want to see exactly what kind of game these humans are playing and why they seem so confident." He turned to address the bridge. "Continue attempts to regain control of our systems. If you succeed and we do not return within 12 hours, you are to withdraw to the rally point and warn the fleet." As he left the bridge to prepare, Lazak couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into something much bigger than a simple first contact mission. Something that would change everything. They had called Earth a prison planet. But for whom? And built by whom? The questions echoed in his mind as he prepared to face whatever truth awaited him on the surface below. The first part of the story was complete, but the revelation and reckoning was just beginning. Commander Lazak stood rigid in the human transport vessel as it descended through Earth's atmosphere, his pride smarting more than he cared to admit. The ship was nothing like Hegemony designs, all smooth curves and quiet efficiency, with not a weapon in sight. yet it had docked with the inevitable conquest with precision that suggested military capabilities far beyond what their intelligence had indicated. "Quite a view, isn't it?" remarked the human pilot, a young woman who had introduced herself simply as Lieutenant Riaz. "First time seeing Earth up close?" Lazak ignored her, but Science Director Korvax, part of his senior staff, moved closer to the viewport. "The atmospheric composition is remarkable," he said, professional curiosity temporarily overriding caution. "So much free oxygen. Makes for spectacular sunsets," Lieutenant Riaz replied cheerfully, "and excellent combustion when needed." The implied threat wasn't lost on Lazak. He narrowed his eyes at the back of her head. "Where exactly are you taking us?" "Same facility where your landing party is currently getting a history lesson. North American continent, Wyoming region. We call it Sanctuary Base Alpha." "How many of these sanctuaries do you have?" asked Security Chief Vorix, his hand instinctively resting where his disruptor would normally be holstered. Lieutenant Riaz smiled. "Now that would be telling, wouldn't it? Let's just say we have had a long time to prepare." The transport banked sharply, descending toward what appeared to be empty wilderness. As they approached, a section of ground slid away, revealing a massive hangar bay carved into the earth itself. "Impressive camouflage," Korvax murmured. "Thank you," Reyes replied. "We have had plenty of practice hiding from the likes of you." The ship settled onto a landing pad with barely a bump. The door hissed open to reveal a welcoming committee of 4 humans, led by a tall, imposing woman whose silver-streaked hair Lazak recognized from the view screen. "Admiral Ochoa," he said stiffly as he exited the transport. "Commander Lazak," she replied with a slight nod. "Welcome to Earth. These are my colleagues General Patel, Chief Science Officer Adayemi, and Ambassador Tanaka." Lazak introduced his own team Korvax, Vorix, and Fleet Intelligence Officer Nexter with minimal courtesy. "Where is my landing party?" "They are finishing their tour," Admiral Ochoa replied. "You will join them shortly. But first, I believe some context is in order." She led them from the hangar into a corridor that sloped gently downward, deeper into the earth. Unlike the utilitarian design of hegemony facilities, the walls featured artwork and plants growing in recessed alcoves, illuminated by light that perfectly mimicked natural sunlight. "Your base is comfortable," Nexer observed, her tone suggesting this was somehow suspicious. Ambassador Tanaka smiled. "We believe military installations don't have to be austere to be effective. Humans perform better when surrounded by beauty, a luxury of those who have never faced real war," Vorix commented dryly. General Patel laughed, a short, harsh sound. "Oh, we have faced plenty of wars, Chief Vorix, just not the kind you are familiar with." They entered a large chamber dominated by a circular table. On one wall was a display showing Earth from orbit, with thousands of tiny lights scattered across its surface. On another wall was what appeared to be a historical timeline stretching back millions of years. "Please, be seated," Admiral Ochoa gestured to chairs around the table. "Your landing party will join us momentarily." As if on cue, a door opened, and Captain Rennick entered with Talari and Morax. Lazak was disturbed by their expressions. Rennick looked shaken, Talari almost excited, and Morax looked angry but not at the human. "Commander," Rennick saluted crisply, though his eyes darted nervously to Admiral Ochoa. We have much to report." "Yes," Lazak said coldly. "Starting with how the most advanced cloaking technology in the galaxy failed to conceal you from these primitives." Dr. Adayami stepped forward. "Perhaps I can answer that, Commander. Your cloaking technology is indeed impressive, a quantum displacement field that shifts matter partially out of phase with normal spacetime. But it's based on principles developed by the ancients, principles we have been studying for thousands of years." "Impossible," Korvax interrupted. "The ancients left no technology behind when they ascended. That is established historical fact, is it?" Dr. Adeyemi asked mildly, "or is that simply what the founders of the hegemony claimed?" Before Korvax could respond, Ambassador Tanaka activated a control on the table. A holographic display sprang to life, showing an image that made every hegemony officer freeze in shock. It was an ancient, unmistakably so. The elongated skull, the 6-fingered hands, the luminous eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of eons. But instead of the ghostly images from ancient records, this was clearly a contemporary recording. The ancient sat in what looked like a garden, speaking directly to the camera. "This is Elder Zephyrin," Ambassador Tanaka explained. "One of the original dissenters who chose Earth as their sanctuary. This recording was made last week." "Fabrication," Borex declared, but his voice lacked conviction. "Science Officer Talari has already verified its authenticity," Dr. Adeyemi countered. "Using your own equipment, I might add." All eyes turned to Talari, who nodded reluctantly. "The biometric data is consistent with our historical records of ancient physiology. If this is a fake, it's beyond anything we could detect." The holographic ancient began to speak, its voice melodious yet carrying an undercurrent of sorrow. "To those who come from the stars bearing the banner of the hegemony, I extend both welcome and warning. You have been deceived. We did not ascend. We did not vanish into a higher plane of existence. Those stories were created by those who seized power after the Great Schism, those who could not accept that their vision for our future was not the only vision." Lezak felt a cold sensation creeping down his spine. Every hegemony citizen knew the story of the ancients, how they had achieved technological perfection, then transcended physical existence, leaving behind the mandate for the hegemony to continue their legacy of bringing order to the galaxy. The ancient continued. "Some of us, yes, pursued transcendence. Others sought conquest. But many of us desired a different path: to remain physical beings, to experience the universe in all its messiness and beauty, to evolve naturally, not through engineered perfection. We were branded heretics, dissidents, criminals. We were exiled to distant worlds, stripped of technology, expected to die forgotten. Earth was one such world." Admiral Ochoa paused the recording. "This is the truth your hegemony has suppressed for millions of years, Commander Lazak. Earth wasn't a prison for violent offenders. It was a dumping ground for political dissidents, scientists, artists, philosophers who questioned the rigid path your ancestors had chosen. And you expect us to believe that humans are their descendants?" Nexer asked skeptically. "You look nothing like the ancients." "Not direct descendants, no," Dr. Adeyemi clarified. "The elders who came to Earth found a young species already evolving here. Rather than replace or dominate them, they chose to guide them, occasionally interbreed with them. They saw potential in humanity's adaptability, our creativity, our stubborn refusal to give up." "So you are mongrels," Borex sneered. "Part ancient, part primitive ape. That explains much." General Patel smiled thinly. "We prefer to think of ourselves as having the best of both worlds. The ancients' knowledge tempered by human ingenuity and determination. It served us well." Lezak had heard enough. "This is an elaborate deception. Even if some ancients did come to Earth, even if they did intermingle with the native species, that doesn't invalidate the hegemony's mandate. It doesn't explain how you develop technology that rivals or exceeds our own while hiding it from our observation." "Ah," Ambassador Tanaka nodded. "Now we come to the crux of the matter. Tell me, Commander, what does your intelligence say about Earth's history? Our development as a species?" Lezak looked to Nexra, who answered promptly. "Earth history shows a standard development curve for an isolated world. Stone tools to agriculture, to industrial revolution, to basic spaceflight. Numerous nations, frequent conflicts, inefficient resource allocation. No indication of unified planetary government until approximately 100 local years ago. Still dependent on fossil fuels. Primitive digital technology. No faster-than-light capabilities. Limited genetic engineering. No significant off-world colonies. And all of that is exactly what we wanted you to see," Admiral Ochoa said. "A carefully maintained facade. Oh, the conflicts were real enough. Humans don't need help finding reasons to fight each other. But beneath the surface, guided by the elders, we have been preparing for this moment since before your hegemony existed." She activated another display, showing what appeared to be an ancient human city being excavated. "This is Göbekli Tepe, a site in a region humans call Turkey. Conventional archaeology dates it to about 12,000 years ago, the dawn of human agriculture. But beneath the public excavation is something else." The image shifted, showing massive machinery of clearly non-human design, buried deep below the ancient stones. "A quantum communications array," Dr. Adeyemi explained. "Built by the first generation of elders to maintain contact with other sanctuary worlds." "Other worlds?" Korvax couldn't hide his shock. "How many?" "Enough," General Patel said simply. scattered throughout the galaxy, some within the hegemony, some beyond its reach. All hiding in plain sight, all developing along their own paths, all waiting for what? Lazak demanded, though he feared he already knew the answer. For the hegemony to overreach, Ambassador Tanaka replied, for the moment when your expansion brought you to enough of our doorsteps simultaneously that we could finally act in concert. That moment Commander Lazak is now. Morax, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly laughed a harsh, bitter sound. You should see what they showed us, Commander, not just recordings. Living ancients. Technology we thought lost to myth. Historical records that prove everything we have been taught is a lie. He looked directly at Lazak. Our great and glorious hegemony is built on the greatest fraud in galactic history. Lazak felt his anger rising. Even if what you say is true, and I do not concede that it is, what exactly do you hope to accomplish? The hegemony spans thousands of worlds, with millions of ships and billions of soldiers. You are one planet, however advanced. Admiral Ochoa and her colleagues exchanged glances. Then she touched another control, and the holographic display changed to show a galactic map. Hundreds of points of light began blinking in patterns, some within hegemony territory, others beyond its borders. As we speak, Commander, similar conversations are happening on 27 other worlds the hegemony has targeted for colonization. Worlds you thought were primitive or uninhabited. Sanctuary worlds, all now revealing their true nature. Simultaneously, agents within the hegemony, descendants of ancients hidden hidden your population for generations, are releasing the suppressed historical records to your citizens. Impossible. Nexer whispered, but her expression showed dawning horror. Our security was designed by the descendants of the very people you exiled, Dr. Adeyemi finished for her, with backdoors and vulnerabilities built in from the beginning. This is rebellion, Lazak declared, standing abruptly. Treason against the established order of the galaxy. No, Commander. Ambassador Tanaka corrected gently. This is a correction of a historical injustice. The hegemony has ruled through a lie for millions of years. That time is over. Talari, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Commander, I have seen their proof. I have verified it with our own equipment. I have spoken with living ancients. What they are saying is true. Lazak stared at her in disbelief. You've been compromised. Perhaps we all have been, Brennick said quietly. Compromised from birth by the lies we were taught. General Patel leaned forward. Commander Lazak, we are not seeking the destruction of the hegemony or its people. We are offering a chance for a new beginning. A galaxy where multiple paths of development can coexist, where the hegemony's love of order and efficiency can still flourish, but not at the expense of those who choose different values. And if we refuse this generous offer? Lazak's voice dripped sarcasm. Admiral Ochoa's expression hardened. Then you force a conflict that will devastate the galaxy. Make no mistake, Commander. While we have hidden our true capabilities, we haven't been idle. Earth alone has a defense fleet that could match a hegemony battle group, combined with our sister worlds and our agents within your territory. She let the implication hang. You are bluffing, Vorix declared. If you had such power, why wait? Why not strike first? Because we are not you, Ambassador Tanaka said simply. The elders who chose Earth did so because they rejected domination as a philosophy. We have spent millennia developing technology, yes, but also developing ethics to match. We don't want to rule the galaxy, we just want to live in it on our own terms. Lazak felt trapped, outmaneuvered. Everything about this situation violated his training, his beliefs, his understanding of history, and yet, he couldn't dismiss the evidence before him. The living ancient in the recording, the clearly advanced technology that had neutralized his warship without firing a shot, the certainty in these humans' eyes. You said my landing party was given a tour, he said finally. I want to see what they saw, all of it. Admiral Ochoa nodded. A reasonable request, and exactly what we expected. She stood. Follow me, Commander. It's time you met an elder in person. The underground facility was far larger than Lazak had initially assumed. They traveled in silent, high-speed transport tubes that reminded him uncomfortably of ancient technology depicted in historical texts. After several minutes, they emerged into a vast spherical chamber unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls appeared to be made of living matter, pulsing gently with bioluminescence. The floor was covered with lush vegetation, and a small stream wound its way around garden paths. And seated on a simple bench beside the water was an ancient. There was no mistaking the elongated skull, the six-fingered hands, the luminous eyes. Physically, the being appeared elderly, with skin that had a translucent quality, but it radiated a presence that made even Lazak want to kneel. Elder Zephyrin, Admiral Ochoa said respectfully. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with the hegemony representatives." The ancient rose smoothly, regarding the Verzari officers with ancient eyes that seemed to see through them. "The circle completes itself," Zephyrin said, his voice resonant yet gentle. "The children of those who exiled us now stand before us, wondering if they face judgment." Lazak found himself unable to speak. The sensation of standing before an ancient being whose species was supposedly long ascended left him momentarily paralyzed. Korvax, surprisingly, was the first to recover. You are truly one of the progenitors." Zephyrin smiled. "That is what you call us now? Progenitors. In our time we simply called ourselves the people, before the schism divided us into those who sought transcendence, those who sought conquest, and those, like myself, who sought continuation." "How?" Nexra struggled to find words. "How have you survived?" "The records say your species' lifespan was at most a few thousand years, even with your advanced medical science. The records were incomplete," Zephyrin replied. "Those who seized power after the schism destroyed much knowledge they found inconvenient, including our research into physical longevity as an alternative to the transcendence path." Lazak finally found his voice. "If what you say is true, if the hegemony's foundation is based on a lie, why reveal yourselves now? After millions of years?" Zephyrin considered him with those ancient eyes. "Because the galaxy stands at a crossroads, Commander Lazak. The path the hegemony has followed, the path of rigid uniformity, of forced assimilation, of expansion at any cost, leads ultimately to stagnation. You have maintained the illusion of advancement, but your society has been effectively frozen for millions of years." "That's absurd," Borix interjected. "The hegemony constantly incorporates new technologies, new species, new ideas." "Does it?" Zephyrin challenged gently. "Or does it merely absorb and reshape them to fit its predetermined pattern? When was the last truly revolutionary idea embraced by your people? When was the last time the fundamental structure of hegemony society changed?" The officers exchanged uncomfortable glances, unable to provide an immediate answer. "Meanwhile," Zephyrin continued, "humanity, guided but not controlled by us, has explored countless alternative paths. Some failed spectacularly." He chuckled. "Humans are remarkably adept at learning from failure. Others succeeded beyond what even we had imagined." "Show them, Elder," Dr. Adiemi suggested. Zephyrin nodded and made a simple gesture. The chamber around them seemed to dissolve, replaced by a view of Earth orbit, but not the Earth they had seen from their ship. This Earth was surrounded by structures that dwarfed anything in the hegemony's arsenal: massive stations, shipyards, defense platforms, all previously invisible to their sensors. "This is the true Earth," Zephyrin explained. "A fortress world, yes, but also a garden, a laboratory of possibilities. One of many such worlds we established." The view shifted, showing other planets, some within hegemony space, all with similar hidden infrastructure. Then it expanded to a galactic view with hundreds of points of light connected by lines of force that formed a complex web. "The sanctuary network," Zephyrin said, "separate from the hegemony yet interwoven with it. Parallel civilizations developing along their own paths, communicating and collaborating in secret." Lazak felt dizzy with the implications. This changes everything." "Yes," Zephyrin agreed simply. "It does." The illusion faded, returning them to the garden chamber. Zephyrin regarded Lazak with something that might have been compassion. "Now you understand why this moment has come, Commander. The hegemony's expansion has finally brought it to the threshold of too many sanctuary worlds simultaneously. We cannot remain hidden any longer, and you cannot continue on your current path." "You are forcing our hand," Lazak said, a note of accusation in his voice. "No," Zephyrin corrected. "We are offering you a choice. Continue as you have been, and face a conflict that will devastate the galaxy. Or join us in creating something new, a galactic community where the hegemony's strengths can still find expression, but alongside other valid paths of development. Lazak looked around at his officers. Corvax appeared fascinated, his scientific curiosity overriding political concerns. Vorik seemed conflicted, his militant nature at war with the undeniable evidence before him. Nexter looked simply overwhelmed. Rennek and Telari, having had more time to process the revelations, watched him expectantly. Only Morax seemed to have made a decision already. "Commander," he said firmly, "we have been shown proof that cannot be dismissed. I believe we must bring this information back to the Hegemony Council." "And you believe they will simply accept it?" Lizak asked bitterly. "Renounce millions of years of history? Surrender their power? Some will resist," Admiral Ocho acknowledged. "But they won't be able to suppress this knowledge. Not anymore. Too many eyes are being opened simultaneously. Your colonization fleet, Commander," Ambassador Tanaka added, "will receive all this information before they ever reach Earth, as will every hegemony world connected to the central communication network. The truth, once released, cannot be contained." Lezak felt the weight of history pressing down on him. His entire worldview was crumbling, his certainties dissolving, and yet, there was something almost liberating in it. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked. Finally, Ambassador Tanaka stepped forward.
"That you return to your ship, as our honored guest, not our prisoner.
That you take with you irrefutable evidence of what we have shown you. That you serve as a bridge between the old understanding and the new. And in return, the hegemony acknowledges the sovereignty of sanctuary worlds. Negotiations begin for a new galactic compact, one that allows for multiple approaches to civilization. The hegemony retains its territory and much of its structure, but abandons forced assimilation and unlimited expansion. "You are asking me to betray everything I have served," Lezak said, but his protest sounded hollow even to his own ears. "No," Zephyrin replied gently. "We are asking you to serve a greater truth than the one you have known, to help your people transition to a new understanding with minimal suffering." Lezak looked around the chamber at this impossible ancient, at these humans who had hidden advanced civilization beneath a primitive facade, at his own officers struggling with the same revelations. They had called Earth a prison planet, but it wasn't a prison, it was a sanctuary. Not for criminals, but for those who had dared to imagine different futures. And now those futures were converging with his own. "I will take your evidence," he said finally. "I will present it to the Council, but I make no promises about their response." Admiral Ochoa smiled. "That is all we ask, Commander. The truth must speak for itself. And if the Council chooses conflict?" Vorix asked. "Then they choose their own destruction," General Patel said bluntly. "But we believe that when faced with undeniable truth, most of your people will make the wiser choice." Zephyrin rose and approached Lezak, extending a six-fingered hand in what the commander recognized as a human gesture of agreement. "The future of the galaxy hangs in balance, Commander Lezak of the Vezari. Will you help tip the scales toward cooperation rather than conflict?" Lezak stared at the offered hand for a long moment. Then slowly he reached out and took it. "I will try," he said simply. As their hands clasped, Lezak couldn't help but feel that he stood at the fulcrum of history. The hegemony had called Earth a prison planet, expecting to find primitives ripe for conquest. Instead, they had found their own past waiting for them and a future they had never imagined. 6 months later, Commander now Ambassador Lezak stood on a balcony overlooking New Geneva, where representatives of the hegemony, the sanctuary worlds, and dozens of independent systems were gathering for the signing of the Galactic Concordat. The transition had not been without conflict. 3 hegemony battle groups had refused to accept the new reality and had launched attacks on revealed sanctuary worlds. All 3 had been neutralized with minimal casualties, their surviving crews now among the most vocal advocates for the new order. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said a now familiar voice. Lezak turned to find Admiral Ochoa now serving as Earth's representative to the new Galactic Assembly joining him on the balcony. "Indeed," he acknowledged. "Though I'm still getting used to seeing the real Earth, not the mask you maintained for so long." She laughed. "Sometimes I miss the simplicity of the mask. Life was less complicated when we were just primitive humans squabbling among ourselves. Do you regret revealing yourselves?" "No," she said firmly. "It was time. The galaxy was heading towards stagnation under hegemony rule. Now, Now we have possibilities again. Lazak nodded slowly. My people are struggling with the adjustment. Millions of years of certainty replaced by questions. It's not an easy transition, but a necessary one, she reminded him. And not all hegemony citizens are struggling. Many have embraced the opportunity to explore new ideas, new ways of living. He couldn't deny that. The revelation of the sanctuary network and the living ancients had sent shockwaves through hegemony society, but after the initial chaos, many had found the new possibilities exhilarating. What of the ancients? He asked. What role will they play in this new order? Advisory only. Ochoa replied. Elder Zephyrin and the others have been clear about that. They have guided humanity for thousands of years, but always with the goal of us standing on our own. The same will be true for the galaxy. They will offer wisdom, but the future belongs to the younger species. Below them, delegates from 100 worlds moved through the plaza, species that had once been enemies now cautiously exploring cooperation. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to perfect. But it was something new. They called Earth a prison planet, Lazak mused. We thought we were coming to an execution ground where we would eliminate the descendants of ancient criminals. And instead, Ochoa prompted. Instead, we found the execution ground for our own lies, for the false history that had shaped my civilization. He turned to face her directly. I'm still not certain if I should thank you or curse you for that. She smiled. History will decide, I suppose, but I'd rather live with uncomfortable truths than comfortable lies. Wouldn't you? As the delegates began moving toward the great hall for the signing ceremony, Lazek considered her question. The hegemony he had served was changing, its certainties replaced by questions, its rigid structure becoming more fluid. The path ahead was unclear, filled with both promise and peril. But for the first time in millions of years, it was a path chosen freely, with full knowledge of the past and all possibilities for the future. Yes, he said finally, I believe I would. Together they turned and walked toward the new future that was waiting to be written not by ancients or algorithms, but by the diverse species of a galaxy finally freed from its prison of lies. Earth had indeed been an execution ground not for humans, but for the falsehoods that had chained the galaxy for too long. And from those executed lies, something new was being born.